Hey guys, it's Sam for Rizom-Lab, and as you can probably guess because you're here and from the title of the video, we are going to go over the new features of RizomUV 2023, and we're also going to talk about the fixes as well. So what's going to happen is we'll do features, fixes, we might do a Q&A at the end, have a look at the chat and see what you guys are saying, and yeah, so I suppose we should get on with it. The first thing that I want to go over is something that actually doesn't require me to share my screen. We've got some people in the chat already. Yay, hello, excited to see this, good, glad to hear it. So the first thing that we've got is the RizomUV link. Now this is currently Windows only. The RizomUV link is installed by default as part of RizomUV. If you don't know what RizomUV link is, let me give you a brief description of it. RizomUV link is a Python module that allows any Python-based program to communicate with an instance of RizomUV standalone. This means executing tasks like loading and saving files, unfolding, optimizing, cutting. Basically, any feature of RizomUV can be executed by any 3D application that supports Python. This is obviously of particular interest for studios developing their own workflows, and it's a great tool for people who want to build bridges between RizomUV and 3D applications, or even users who write their own Python scripts in their 3D programs. So that is RizomUV link. Like I said, it's built into RizomUV standalone application now. So let's move on to something where I can share my screen. So let me just shift some stuff and have a little sip. Have a look at the chat quick. Please, Maya link. Well, that's kind of what the RizomUV link facilitates. So definitely check it out. So let's move on over to RizomUV. Also, let's get rid of me in the corner there. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about the GUI quickly. We've changed up some things in the GUI. So we've got improved color consistency and readability. So there's a better contrast. Buttons are now more obvious. So a good example of this is if you look up to the world buttons here, you can see that they're buttons immediately. In the last version, these were actually the same color as the background, and you wouldn't even know they were buttons until you hovered over them. But now it's way more apparent. We've moved some stuff about as well. So a good example of this is the let me have a look. The mix scale button. So that's now in the middle of the scale optimization range, which kind of makes sense. It used to be over here somewhere. And speaking of which, we've moved these as well. So the distribute button, that used to be in the UDIMS panel, and we've relocated it into packing, which again makes much more sense because it has a lot to do with packing. Same with the overflow. It's now been relocated to packing. That used to be in the UV tile here at the bottom, so that is now in packing as well. Okay, let's talk about some other changes. So we made some changes to the way menus look and windows when you open. A good example of this is the UV export, UV export even. So if I go to export UV, this is what it looks like now, and you can see all the options under template channel A and template channel B. There isn't any options until you enable it. So this makes much more sense now, because you can tell whether it's going to output something and where it's going to output to only if it's enabled. So that's a change as well. And just the overall look at this, I'm sure you can see that it's changed. So let's close that. The preference menu has had a facelift as well. So let's open the preferences dialog. So it's a lot more succinct, and I think it's laid out a lot better. You can tell what is going on, and it just seemed to be tied together a lot better under the various headings, which again have been subject to contrast changes. So yeah, so there we go. Okay. While we're in this area of GUI, we might as well talk about the mouse customizer. So there's been a couple of changes in here too. Let me just have a sip of drink. So something we've added is the fact that you can invert the wheel direction now. So normally when you'd scroll in and out to zoom, it was requested actually that we had the ability to invert the mouse wheel. So you just flip it around. Something else that's new and is a lot better to do with the mouse customizer dialog. Here you can see that we've got sort by hotkey, and this is the default in RizomUV, and this is exactly how it was in the older versions. So you would come here and you would see the hotkeys listed alphabetically. And that may not be particularly helpful because you may be looking for what a function's hotkey is. So what you tend to do is look for the name of something and then, you know, what the shortcut is. So now we've added the option to sort by name. So now the name of the function is listed alphabetically. So I can go, oh, what's island mode? Go down and go island mode, and then there you go, F4. So yeah, we've added that now. So it should make navigation and finding things a lot more easy. We've still got sort by zone in there, and all this means is that it organizes shortcuts and functions by the panels they're in. So all the layout stuff here will be together in this list, and same with packing. So let's just put this back to hotkey for now and close this. Actually, something that I want to make sure that I've got. Yep, we're all good. Okay, so let's move on to one of our major features even in this release, and that will be USD support. So let's open up files, and you can say load with UVs, and I'm going to choose this USD here that I've got at the top, and it'll bring up this dialog. Sorry about that, just having a drink. So USD support is currently Windows only, I'm afraid. If you don't know what a USD is, let me give you a short description. USD files are designed to be highly scalable and efficient, allowing for the representation of large and complex scenes. They provide unified representation that can be accessed and manipulated by various applications and tools, regardless of the software used to create or consume the files. One of the significant advantages of USD is its ability to facilitate collaborative workflows. Multiple artists or teams can work on different aspects of a USD file simultaneously and independently, with the option to merge their work seamlessly. So that all sounds very good, but how does that relate to us and RizomUV? So first of all, I should note that anything that you export out of your 3D program to a USD must be a polygon object. It can't be something like a primitive that's internally generated by, I don't know, say Cinema 4D or Blender or something like that. It has to be made of polygons So yeah, I just wanted to make that known. Let's have a look at this load dialog for USD then. Here you can see that we've got a root, which is kind of like a null object, and then we've got a materials folder, an object I've called floor, and then we've got another null object, which I've named myself. This is how I set my scene up, called object group, and I've got some stuff in there. So this is like just a null header with some stuff in it, and just because I wanted to show you the hierarchy. This root here at the top, I didn't actually create. This is kind of like the world, well, root. It's kind of like the root of the scene, if you like. So this was generated by Cinema 4D when I exported out. Something else you'll notice in, this screen where we've got the hierarchy, we've got some options about RizomUV attributes and normals and auto world. These are things that you can choose to load or not load, and we'll get onto the RizomUV attributes shortly. So something that you should really note about USDs is that, well, let's just load the entire thing. So let's load all. It brings in my objects and any existing UVs. I'm just looking at the chat. Howdy, anyone else seeing poor video quality? No, apparently my stream is healthy and the quality is excellent, so it might be on your end. Sorry about that. So where was I? So yeah, we've loaded the entire scene in, and it's pulled in the already existing UVs, and this is what it looks like. So let's load again. I'm going to load the same file, but this time I'm just going to load part of the file. So you don't even have to load the entire thing. I choose my sphere. So I've just got the sphere object. Pack that, and you can just see that we've just got that object in there. So that's important to note as well. You can also load the parent objects, which will automatically bring in its children. So if I was to grab this object group, it will bring all its children along for the ride. So there you see we've got the cube and the sphere because we chose the overriding header. So let's go back, take a drink. You can also load multiple objects from different parts of the hierarchy as well. So if I was to choose this sphere and then grab this floor, oh sorry, I pressed shift then, I wanted control, I can select both of these items and then load selected, and there you go, you've got the sphere and the floor. So you can do quite a bit when it comes to loading. What's really important to understand is that if you make changes to an individual element of the USD file, then save, only data about that element is changed. All other data in the USD is left completely intact. So let's do this again. Let's grab our file. I'm going to load the sphere. Yep. And then I'm going to optimize this and pack it. And then I'm just going to save. Save. So only the data about this sphere and what I've changed should be saved, and leave everything else about the USD completely intact. Let's go back to files, load with UVs, choose our USD again, and this time I'm going to say all, and you can see that the changes that I made to that single object, that sphere object, were implemented back into the USD while leaving everything else completely alone. So as you can imagine, that's quite powerful because it means that I can work on that sphere part of the USD while maybe a colleague works on another part of the USD, and it doesn't matter. We can just update the parts we're working on, which is fantastic, really. Okay, so let's talk about Let's reload this so we've got it fresh. And we'll grab everything in. Oh yeah, I saved that, didn't I? So, you can save RizomUV attributes to the USD. And those attributes are as follows. UDIM tiles, groups, constraints, locked islands, locked tiles, initial orientation, scaling. So just information that you may want to put on this stuff in RizomUV. So let's actually do that. Let's open up the select menu. Let's open up this dialog, and I'm going to choose our materials, spread all this stuff. Well, select it first, spread it across tiles. Oh, we've got a packing overflow issue there, so let me just check this. It may be because that was not. There we go. That's better. Sorry about this. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. I didn't unfold. So now we can spread this lot across in tiles. So let's select them, distribute them across tiles. So now we've got our UDIMs and each material in each one. So what's next? Let's get some of this stuff in a group. So let's select this and group it by pressing G. I'm also going to do it to these two here. These two are in a group now. Constraints as well. So let's go into edge mode. Let's go to the edges of these and select them. Now, there's actually a much quicker way of doing this, and it involves one of our new features, and I'll be getting onto that in a bit. Let's choose that, give them vertical constraints. Go back into island mode, select these, unfold, pack, unselect, and then pack everything, and it should... Now what we don't want to do is have our materials redistributed across these tiles. So I'm going to turn off distribute in packing. So now they should stay in their respective tiles when I pack, and there we go. Okay, so that's constraints dealt with. Let's do some, let's lock an island as well. And let's also lock a tile. So we'll grab this one and we'll lock that tile. Initial orientation, we'll give this an orientation of V. And also affects scaling as well. So let's turn this scaling to off just for this island. Someone in the chat says, please turn the background down, the background music. Okay, I can do that. Is it a little loud? It should duck out when I speak, but okay. Okay, so I've turned that down. Okay. So now we've got everything, you know, all our attributes. Let's go save this file. I'm just going to hit save. You can see that it's saved at the bottom here. And now we can load with UVs again and reopen this file. I'm going to say all. And as you can see, it's retained all the information about our RizomUV attributes in that file. Okay, so the next thing you should know about this is that only relevant RizomUV attributes will be loaded when a part of the USD is loaded. So, someone's saying in the chat, it's ducking just a wee bit too much. Okay. I've adjusted it even further now, so that should be better. Let me know in the chat if that's the case. So, as I was saying, that these attributes are kind of tied to their parts as well. So only the relevant attributes will be loaded with each part. So let me go load the scene again. And I'm going to grab this cube here and just load selected. Now, as you can see, it has loaded the cube with its group and in the correct UDIM. And you'll notice that the first two UDIMs already exist, and that's because the cube was in the third, so it knew it needed 3 to get the cube there. You'll also notice none of the other attributes were brought in with these UDIM tiles. For instance, one of these was locked, but because we've only loaded in the cube, it's disregarded. The power of this should be obvious. You can work on a part of a USD independently while someone else in your team works on another part of the same USD, all while retaining RizomUV attributes. Okay, so with USD, RizomUV attributes should survive a trip to your 3D application and back, providing you don't change the topology, i.e. the amount of points in your object. So I'm going to close RizomUV now, i.e. the amount of points. Oh Jesus, I didn't realise I had a screen open there. There we go. And let's open Cinema 4D. Okay, so I'm going to load that USD. So let's open project. Let's go to stream models and load this. I'm just going to go to the default settings. I'm just looking at my notes quick. Okay, so this is the USD scene. We've got our materials on there, obviously, and all I'm going to do is I think I'm going to shift this cube over to a corner, and I might even move its points as well. So let's grab all of these. Let's make sure the selection is tolerant, and I'm going to crunch these down like this. And now I'm just going to go into this view. I'm going to send the entire scene back to the USD. So I'm just going to update the USD. So that's done. Let's open up RizomUV again. And I'm going to load exactly the same scene. All. Now you can see that the cube has in fact moved and its points have been shifted down, so it's kind of this squatty little cube thing now, but everything has been retained. So all of the attributes, all of the groups, all of the locks and the orientation, all of that stuff, even the constraints, it all remains. Even on the object that we altered, the group still remains on it. So not only can, with USD, can your object survive a trip to a 3D application and come back with the attributes, but you can also make changes. As I said before, if you added a load of new points to this, you know, you split it, you will be changing the topology of the object, and that's a bit of a no-no. So, well, it's not a bit of a no-no, it's just a no-no. Sorry guys, I've got a bit of a dry mouth, so yeah, I keep having to take a drink. So yeah, like I said, word of warning, saved RizomUV attributes coming back from your 3D application may be 3D application dependent. It shouldn't be, because stripping out custom data kind of defeats the purpose of USD files. But your 3D application's USD implementation might be in the early stages. So you're going to have to try it out, whatever you're using. But in my case, with Cinema 4D, this is working brilliantly. So I'm going to move on to another new feature of RizomUV, and that is auto unfold in the Magic Wand tool. So let me load our next model, which is this mech robot. And I've made sure to load it without its UV so I can show you the Magic Wand tool. So let's go to polygon mode, because that is only visible in polygon mode. There we go. I'm going to turn on curved. So you're probably all familiar with this. setup from the last version of RizomUV. You can choose coplanar or curved, and you can actually choose your max angle of what's going to be chosen. And you can also use the geo normals. So all of this was already in RizomUV, but we've got a auto unfold feature. So let's check this on and select some of these islands based on this max local angle. So if I click on this, say I want this piece of the leg broken out, I can click on it and it will automatically unfold it. Well, not just unfold it, but cut it from the model and unfold it afterwards. And I can do the same with this piece here. So it will do that. What's even nicer is with this first, I've just controlled Z there to go back one. You can actually add to your selection as well. So let me go back to the beginning. I'm going to click this first one again and then go to this second one. And if I hold down my add button, in my case it's shift, I can add this to my selection. So now if I click this, not only does it automatically unfold this extra selection I've made, but it welds it to the first bit. So if I scoot round and maybe, oh, I don't know, add that, you can see that it's been added to this. There's no cut there. It welds it. So you can actually slowly pick apart and unwrap a piece of this model, and you can see it sort of taking shape and unfolding in your UV space. You can even deselect islands as well. So an example of this is these islands that were selected, these islands that were welded together and unfolded. They will be cut and unfolded independently. So you can actually go for your other button and it will get broken away from this. So if I do that here as well, in fact, let's bring this max angle down a little bit so I can, there we go, select that, and I can hold my control button. Like I said, in your case, it may be different. I'm using the C4D control layout. If you're using another one, your shift and control buttons may be reversed. So if I hold down control here and select this, it gets broken off and cut and re-unfolded. Also, the island that it gets broken away from gets unfolded again independently on its own. So yeah, we really think that that's a great addition to the Magic Wand tool, because it really does mean that you can see it happening before your eyes. You can just pick it apart and you can sort of go, that didn't unfold the way that I wanted it to, or I imagined it would. And you can sort of go back, or even come back later and say, actually, I think I can put more bits on this and it could be good. So anyway, I'll stop rambling and move on to the next feature that is in RizomUV. I hope you like that, guys. I really do, because yeah, I was quite happy with that one. Just looking at the chat quick. Someone's saying, for all I know, RizomUV runs on Magic. Thank you very much. Peter's saying, really cool. But I love Rizom. I generally enjoy UVing with it. Yeah, everyone's happy with that by the looks of things. Okay, so the next thing we're going to have a look at is this cable FBX that I made. So let's just load this. So we've got a cable here. It's already got a cut in it. So let's just unfold this. In fact, I'm going to turn off the magic wand and close this up. I'm also going to enable the checkers on this. You can see its current state. It's a little bit, stretched and all the rest of it. So let's unfold. Decided to unfold like this, and if I pack, it's probably going to be diagonal. So let's change the orientation to vertical and pack again. So that's done it globally, but because there's only one island in the scene, it's irrelevant. So we've packed this now, and if you have a look at our cable, you can see it's actually wider at one end than it is the other. So this is kind of why this UV has got this shape, because it wants to be in its sort of most relaxed state. But this may not be good for authoring. You may want to straighten things out here. We've added an option to RizomUV 2023, and it is called Unfold U and Unfold V. So you can unfold along just one axis. So if I select this and go up here, you'll find it under the Align, Straighten and Flip, and select Unfold V. It does this. So let's have a little zoom in and see what's happened. You can see that the vertical lines are what RizomUV determined as vertical have been completely straightened out, and it has left the horizontals in this UV island completely left alone. So let's go back and undo this, and let's do Unfold U. Now you can see that all the horizontals in this island have been completely straightened out, leaving the verticals. So this could really help you out in terms of authoring, because this kind of UV will be much easier to manage. Let's repack that so it fits in. Be much easier to manage in terms of in Substance Painter or putting decals on it or something like that. So yeah, let's try this again, but with something else. Let's go back to our mech robot. So basically the way that the Unfold U and Unfold V works, you must be in island mode, by the way, to use that. It unfolds with temporary constraints. So what it does is it actually applies constraints internally, so invisible to you, to do what it's doing, and then takes them off again. So it even works with triangles, actually, and this is why I wanted to load this scene. So if we zoom in here and have a look at this, we've got this island here, and it pretty much comprises of straight edges. But we have some triangles in here. So how is it going to evaluate this kind of edge here? Because, well, let's just give it a go, shall we? If I select this and unfold along V, you can see it's completely ignored that. It's straightened up this edge, and when it's got to this point, it's gone, yep, leave that alone. And straightened it out. Now, there is a threshold on that edge. There is a threshold for this. If I unfold along U, so the horizontal, you can see that it's picked one of these up. Now, that actually isn't a problem, because again, I'm going to get onto a feature in a minute that will actually address this kind of thing. So I'm going to revisit this little tile, this island in this tile. So what have we got next? Okay, we've got a new feature called Fit to Tile. This is going to require a new model as well. This file was actually provided to us by one of you guys, actually one of our users. And in fact, this was developed off the back of the problem that he was having. So it's always worth making requests to us. And it's also worth, I mean, something that I actually wanted to say about this stream was we really, really appreciate your feedback. So once you've grabbed these tools and got to grips with them, please do join us on our Discord and on social media, because we really do appreciate what you've got to say about our tools. So let's get back to what I was saying. Let's take a drink again. Sorry about this. The weather is really, really hot at the moment. So, okay, so this guy was having a problem with these hair cards. Essentially, what he was trying to do was pile all of these cards on top of each other and then make them fill the 0 to 1 space. And it's because he wanted each hair card to share exactly the same texture. And that's why he wanted to do this. So In the past, in RizomUV, you might have thought, oh God, how would I go about this? Okay, maybe topo copy. I'm going to say cut. So we're just looking at the, this. We also need to be in island mode, and we're going to select all these islands. We're going to bring our similarity down so it's really low, something like this, and then stack these on top of each other. Okay, so now you've got some of them stacked. And the reason that they don't all stack is because the topology is different. So let's have a look. We've got this island here, which hasn't got the same amount of cuts as this island here, and they're arranged differently as well. So that's why you got some stacked on top of each other and some not. And there's not much you can do about that in topo copy. So the next thing you might think is to, I don't know, shove them across the side here, align in the align tool here, align them to the top, and then, oh, I don't know, fit to tile. Well, that kind of does it, but it doesn't do it across. So maybe if I do that and then fit like this, we've got gaps. Not all of them are the same height. They're not going to be sharing the same part of the tile. So let's reload this, because I just wanted to go through that, because really make clear what the problem is. Now we've added something called fit to tile even. So you can see that here. It's in the align, straight and flip section, and much like before, we've got pixel and user grid, and you've got your fit options, but now we've got this tile option. So if we select this tile option, we've got a few things you can do here. I'm going to get into these two settings in a minute, but this alone, just turning it on this setting, solves this problem. So if I was to select all these tiles now, and then just choose the first one here, all of these cards have been made to spread across the entire UV in both the U and the V direction. They're filling as much space, and they're on top of each other as well. So if I select this one, you can see that it fills the entire space. If I select this one, it's filling the entire space, and so on. So let's get on to some of the settings and what they mean. Go back. Okay, so first off, we've got this add tiles margin. So if I click this and zoom in, you can see it's turned on. So it actually accounts for the margin of the tile. It respects it. Let's go back. Turn this off. Now it doesn't respect the margin. So when we press this fit button, it will just fill the entire tile. So it gives you the option of respecting the margin or not respecting the margin. Let's go back. Turn this back on. Okay, let's move on to this multi-center. Now, this is a difficult one to explain if I don't shrink these down, so I'm going to do that. Actually, I don't want to do that. I want to scale them uniformly like this. Okay. So this multi-center, let's turn this off first, because you've seen what happens with it on. If I press fit, it makes everything fit to the tile. So it treats all the islands you've got selected as kind of like a compound object. So it just looks at your selection, uses its sort of box that's around it, and expands everything in it to fit within the tile. If we got multi-center turned on, it basically treats each island as an individual object and doesn't care about, crossing over each other in terms of stacking. So it treats everything as an individual. And that's why this is allowed to happen. So this is because of the multi-center setting. Let's go back again. Oh, double click C then. Okay. I'm going to scale this down again. There we go. So with all these selected, let's go over the axis mode. So we've got a few options here. By default, and what we just did, it was U and V independence, right? So let's go to the top. U only, pretty self-explanatory. If I press this, it will only make it fit in the U direction. Go back. We've got V only. It will make it fit to the entire tile in the V direction. Then we've got U and V independence, which is exactly what I did a minute ago, but for the sake of argument, let's do it again. And then we've got U and V uniforms, which does this. So U and V uniforms fits to U and V, but it respects the island's aspect ratio. So that's why you've got an island like this, and you've got another one like this, and another one like this. So that's what these tools do. And I think that's pretty much it for the fit to tile. But yeah, this is exactly the kind of problem that it solves, this hair card problem. So let's move on to, oh yeah, this is one of my favorites. Edge selection by orientation. So load UVs, go and grab the mech robot. Let's zoom into our part again. Remember earlier when I was saying about this getting caught up in selection with the unfold V, unfold U? Well, that actually doesn't matter anymore, because we now have something called edge selection by orientation. So let's actually get into edge mode. You do need to be in edge mode to be able to see this. Let's get into edge mode first. And I'm going to isolate this island first. Now let's think about selecting the verticals on this. Wouldn't be too bad, because you can do that, but oh no, now we've got to go up here and select this and that actually, and go through, and you can see how a pain in the arse it would be. It'd be even more painful if you had to choose the horizontals, because there's much more of them, and it would stop there as well, so you'd have to go through that and all the rest of it. But now we've got a great option where if you go into edge mode and go down here, you can change this to orientation. Now this is a visualization of, well, in the middle, let's just hide this so we can actually, there we go, let's hide this so we can see. So this, you see in the middle, it says U axis, and then at the ends V axis and V axis, and that's because this loops round on itself. So let's bring my island back and isolate it. And now we're just looking at this island. You can see its edges represented along this bar, and you can even see some that are outside, so it's kind of blended. All the edges that are vertical are right on this point here, and near vertical are just outside of it. As you can see, that this edge here is a little bit wobbly, and that might be represented by, I don't know, one of these here. And this is obviously representing all the horizontals, and the majority of them are pretty close to horizontal in the middle, but there's some outliers here, and that will represent these. But you can actually select by them as well. So let's go up here and just grab, drag and select the verticals. And this has selected every single vertical on this island. Let's do the same thing with the horizontals. Let's just grab the main ones here in the middle. So you can see that that's grabbed everything, apart from, it's missed this because the angle might have been a little bit too steep, and this one, and this one, and this one. But that doesn't matter, because you can actually add to your selections. So I'm going to grab this, and again, it's probably missed a few, but I'm going to then shift click and grab these as well. And you can see that it grabbed a little extra up there. Sorry, my bar keeps popping up. That must be annoying. Shift select again, and now it's selecting more. So you can really hone in what you're selecting. Same with this stuff here. These are outliers. Yep, selected all of those. Excuse me. So the reason I love this is because it makes edge selection for constraints really, really easy. If I go up here and grab, in fact I want my verticals, don't I? So let's grab all of these. It's grabbed all of them, and now I can just press my vertical constraint. It's added them all, and now I can unfold the pack, and there we have it. I didn't have to pick through and select these edges, and like I said, I should imagine it would be even more painful if I was doing it through the horizontals. Quick look at the chat. Peter says neat. Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty good. Okay, so let's move past the edge selection by orientation, and let's talk about non-manifold geometry. So I've actually prepared some non-manifold geometry and made a simple scene because I find that it's much better to explain this stuff simply instead of having a mess of islands all together on screen. I'm going to load that again actually because I moved it and there's something to note there. Non-manifold geometry, load. If you look at the bottom, there's an orange warning. It says warning in 3D polygons, so it's recognized that there's something wrong. And if you look at this, you can tell there's something wrong. So having this polygon here and this would be absolutely fine. But this edge is a problem. This polygon here is the problem because now we've got an edge that is being shared by three faces. This polygon, and this polygon. That's a big no-no, and it's non-manifold. You can see here that these points have been highlighted in orange to say, hey, there's a problem along this edge or with these points. And that's great, and it's quite obvious in this scene because this is on its own. But if you've got a big scene with lots of stuff going on in there and you see this warning at the bottom, you're going to look in the 3D view. Let's say it's your mech robot or something like that. You're going to go, okay, well, where is it? Where is this problem stuff? Well, now in RizomUV, you have the ability to select non-manifold geometry. So we're in edge mode at the moment. I think this works in edge or point mode. But if you go up to the select menu, you can see we've got an option now called select non-manifold. And if you look at the points that are being highlighted in orange there, in fact, I think we have to be in, yeah, I think you do have to be in point mode for this to highlight those points. Select non-manifold. You can see now that these have been selected. And in fact, if I hold down the space bar in my UV view, you'll get an idea of where those points are and how they're being connected. Because essentially in the 3D view, it looks like I've got 2 points. But it's all of this stuff as well. So that gives you an idea about where those things are and where to find them in your model. And then you can go into your 3D program and fix them. Let me have a look at my notes quick. Okay, let's move on to our next model. I'm going to choose this one and load. Again, very, very simple. You can see what shapes we've got here and they're just being laid out like this. Now, I've loaded this up because I want to talk about another feature we've put in there into RizomUV 2023. And this is repeat last and repeat last 2. So this will repeat behaviors, or should I say functions. This doesn't include things like selecting and that kind of stuff. It's just functions you've used. So let's demonstrate this very, very quickly. I'm going to select these islands. In fact, let's get into island mode. I'm going to select these islands. I'm going to group them, which is a function. I'm then going to select the content, which is already selected actually. But let's do it anyway. Select the contents, and I'm going to align to top. That'll be a good one to do. And it does this. So now I'm going to select these three. And we've got two options down the bottom here. We've got repeat last and repeat last two. So let's repeat last. But you can see that it did that align because that was the last thing that I did. It didn't do the group. So let's undo. Let's repeat last two. Now it's grouped it and aligned to top. So let's do that with this one, these ones as well. Repeat last two, and it's done that. So these just make tasks like that a little bit easier. If you need to do things that are repetitive, you can do them over and over again. Even works on these. With these, I selected 3 islands. It doesn't matter. I can select those 2 and press that function, and it will do exactly the same thing. So yeah, that is repeat last and repeat last 2. Something else that I should probably point out at this point is, if I go to files and go to, actually no, it's not. Yeah, it is export UVs, and I enable one of these channels. Something else we've added to this is the ability to export transparent background PNGs. So you can see this is set to PNG, you can see the background is set to color, but now if we drop this down, we can actually set it to transparent. So it means that you can have absolutely no background whatsoever and just render out the edges of your UVs. That's extremely helpful because it just means that now you can overlay your UVs on something else in Photoshop or something like that. So that's something else we've added. Polygon's here. He says I'm a little late, but we'll catch up with the VOD. No problem, mate. That's a good point, actually. To let you all know, this isn't going to go away after I've streamed. It will be archived and available on the homepage of the channel. Something else we've added as well. That is a more tolerant marquee selection. So I'm going to actually open up an old version of RizomUV, and I'm just going to load. Let's load the hair cards, because this is probably a good example. We're in island mode, and I'm going to drag select on this and make sure my selection box is very, very thin. It didn't pick up anything. In fact, if I make it a little bit wider, oh, it's picked up a couple. So we've made that selection a lot more tolerant. I think it was to do with surface area or something like that. But now, as you can see, if I make this super thin, it still picks everything up. So that's a little quality of life update we've done to make sure that, you know, things just get better in general, really. So yeah, we've the marquee selection is more tolerant now. I think that is about it for the new features. Although there is one that I haven't talked about yet, and I'm not going to talk about on this stream because we need to, what's the word? Optimize slightly and cross the T's and dot the I's. But there is another feature that I want to speak about, and that'll probably be in a week or two. So there is more coming. Let's just go over the fixes very, very quick. In fact, we can go back to this, my lovely face. I'm not going to do this extensively. You can look at the changelog, but I think these are the fixes that I think are prominent. So we did have a problem with hide and show polygons. In fact, let's get back to my screen and I can show you. In the past, you could select a bunch of polygons like this, and then to hide them, you'd press Alt-H. And it would hide them like this, but when you pressed Alt-Y, they didn't come back. It would just bring back the wireframe. Obviously, as you can see, that's been fixed in 2023. Export height and width settings were nonsensical values in the... So this is in the UV export. Again, let's flip back and go into File, Export UV. So here, sometimes when you change the method from pixels to centimeters, this would update with gibberish numbers. And sometimes when you changed other things, that's all fixed now. So that is another good one to know. We also, UV tile scale, we fixed a display issue. When you changed the scale of a UV tile or a UDIM, it wouldn't update straight away in the viewport. You'd have to click in it and then it would be right. Now that's fixed as well, so it's a bit of a display bug. That's all sorted. Group stack behavior. Ola Holdars in the chat. I'm late to the party, but I'm here now. Welcome. So something else I should probably say is the group stack behavior. And in fact, I need to go back here again. So let's load and load stack group behavior. Okay, this is really good at pointing out exactly what I'm talking about. Let's just close this. So we've got all this here. So this is set to cut. Symmetry mode is straight. We've made our similarity quite low. Let's put it up a little bit. So someone brought an issue to our attention. And in fact, let's open up the old version of RizomUV and show you exactly what the issue was. And load the same file as well. You probably notice the dialogue is different when you load up a file as well. You've got more options in the new one. You can choose whether to weld overlapping edges. And I think you can choose whether you want to bring in the normals or not. That's actually a choice now. Yeah. So anyway, this is the old version of RizomUV. Let's open up the topper copy tool. And again, we'll change this to cut. We're on straight. We'll bring the similarity down to about halfway, something like that. Now, if I choose one of these islands, and I choose this island, and I choose this island, and then I want to put these in a stack, so all the ones that are similar to this in a stack, all the ones similar to this, and all the ones similar to this, and I go to group stack, you will notice that it does indeed stack them, but it puts everything in the same stack group. Now, this confused me, because I thought, well, why would it do that? Surely you'd want each stack in its own stack group to make sure they could still move around independently when packed and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we changed. The behavior of that has now changed. So if I do this in RizomUV 2023 in island mode, let's get out polygon mode. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, not that. And then we do a stack group. It treats every stack as an independent stacked group instead of placing them all in the same one. I'm really happy about that because let's say, for instance, you've got a big scene and maybe there's 50 different stacks. Do you really want to go around? Actually, let's say there's 100 different stacks. You want to go around and go, right, there's one, there's another one, there's another one. There's a ad infinitum forever, when you could just Control A, click this, and it will put everything in its respective stack instead of you having to pick through it. So yeah, there's that. Okay, another fix. Retina Mac displays appeared blurry. We've now fixed that. There was also a problem related to selection on Retina screens. This has also now been fixed. And fix UV tile grid is not updated when UV tile shape is changed. That is also fixed. So it was another display issue, and that has also been fixed. So I think that about wraps up everything that I wanted to go over and talk about. Maybe have a look at the chat and take some questions maybe. If you've got any questions about the new features or confused about something about it, yeah, fire away. Let's have a look at the chat. Did you get your hair cut just for this stream? Lovely stuff with 2023 version. thank you for the praise of 2023, which actually I should give a massive shout out to our main developer, Remy. Yeah, guy's a genius. I think he's done some really great work on this version. But to answer your question about my haircut, yes, I went and got it cut today because I look like a mountain man. So yeah, I did get that cut. Should all new features be available in both the virtual and real space 2023 version? Also Magic Wand, for instance. Yes, you are absolutely right. As I've stated on stream, though, for some of these tools, they are Windows only. So Linux and Macs, for instance, haven't got, I'll be able to speak in a minute, haven't got USD support. But in terms of the difference between virtual spaces and real space, if you're using a Windows version of either one of those, they'll have the same capabilities. Shout out Rizom team, and trim looks divine, mate. Thank you very much. I'm just going back up the stream, actually. All good, cool stuff, Magic Wand. Yeah, so I don't think there's any other questions. AKA PlayFox, cool, thanks. Well, just looking at the chat, I don't think there's any further questions, so I think I'm going to wrap things up there. So I really hope you enjoyed these new tools, or the showcase of these new tools. And again, I want to iterate feedback. Really let us know what you think. Come and join us in our Discord and on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and all that good stuff. There's only one more thing to say, really, and that is make sure to watch these videos if you're watching the archive, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.